joined now by the Cabinet Minister Kit Malthouse, who's in charge of policing in the Home Office. Mr Malthouse, good evening.
Hi there, Tom.
I want to talk to you about your party's results mainly, but quickly, a question on that new police investigation into Keir Starmer's gathering in Dublin. I know you can't talk about that per se, but Keir Starmer having called for the Prime Minister to resign. If he is also fined, should he resign?
Well, that's a matter for him. I wouldn't deem to give him any advice, to be honest with you. I've stayed out of this naturally because of my position. The only thing I would urge anybody who's being investigated by the police is that they should tell the truth.
I've got no view, Mr Malthouse. I know you're a man of many views.
Well, you'll have to forgive me, Tom, as I say, because I'm the police minister, I try not to get involved in matters of police investigations. And as far as Keir Starmer goes, you know, it's up to him what he does. He's obviously made statements in public about what he thinks other people should be doing. He's very free with his advice. I would imagine he'd want to take his own advice.
OK, that's half of you. Let's talk about your own party now. It's been a fairly grim day of counting, hasn't it? On broadcast last night, I want to ask you about something you said specifically about the troubles the country is currently facing. You said this: if we have an alternative history, we'd now have Jeremy Corbyn running the country, and it would be even more of a disaster. What is it about Boris Johnson's leadership that you think has been a disaster so far?
No, Tom, I'm afraid that's a slight elision of what I was trying to say. You'll have to forgive me. It was late at night. I was very tired after a long day. We'd had a discussion about the various challenges that we've been facing. What I was trying to say was that COVID has been a disaster. I think everybody would imagine it's been a disaster for the country. It's caused all sorts of shocks and impacts, which we've done our best to try and ameliorate. But that if Jeremy Corbyn had been in charge, and the shadow minister that I was up against in the interview was obviously just a few months ago campaigning for Corbyn to run the country, that COVID would have been even more of a disaster for the country. Now, look, as you know, Tom, I've been a long time associate of Boris Johnson. We've worked very closely together in the past, and I certainly hope that we'll continue to do so in the future.
OK, we've just been hearing from Lord Hayward there, a man I'm sure you know, eminent pollster and strategist. He says you've lost huge amounts of support amongst that traditional Tory base, so sort of middle class, the Waitrose set, if you like, in London and the home counties. They're punishing you for Partygate. So what do you think needs to change to get their trust back?
So I realise, Tom, that the natural inclination in this situation is to look for something binary. And you're right, it was a very tough night across the whole of the country for us. You know, we saw councillors falling here and there, but I have to confess to you, it wasn't as bad as I expected. And we saw some strange results. So, for example, in London, where we went backwards, and I personally very sorry to see Westminster go as a former Westminster councillor, but we did take Harrow, you know, and although Labour were up in London, they've obviously become the party of London. They're very dominant in the capital. They were down in the Midlands and the North. We've obviously suffered across the southeast. I've seen some of that in my own constituency just today in our results. And I think basically we're going to have to move towards the general election with a re-emphasis of what the Prime Minister constantly brings to our attention as a cabinet, which is that we have to deliver on getting ahead of some of the challenges which the country faces, quite significant challenges, and that's what we'll be doing to win that trust back over the next couple of years. All
right, nothing specific there you're planning on delivering on. Let me ask you this, though. There is something you can change. If you don't want to change your leader, it sounds like you're not going to declare that here and now. What about reducing the level of tax people pay in this cost of living crisis?
Well, as you know, Tom, the Chancellor has already signalled his desire to reduce tax.
Yeah, but he hasn't done it yet, has he? He hasn't done it yet. Should he do it now?
Well, I sincerely hope he'll be doing it shortly, yes. I mean, look, we are facing unprecedented economic challenges. I know that he and the Prime Minister are in constant communication about what steps we need to take, both to boost growth, but help people in their day-to-day lives. And I think you'll find out soon enough what their plans are.
Really? That sounds like you might know. Plans to do what? And which taxes would you like to see come down?
That's above my pay grade.
Well, you just said you want the taxes to come down. You sincerely hope he'll do it soon. I'm sure many people share that view who are paying these taxes. VAT, is that a good tax to bring down?
Well, Tom, you'll have to forgive me if I don't stray above my pay grade. My job is to fight crime and get that number down, which I'm doing more or less successfully. I wouldn't dream of teaching the Chancellor how to do his job, although obviously I contribute to discussions elsewhere in government. But you'll have to wait and see. He's in charge of economic policy, not me. OK.
Some of those contributions in government have been, as we all understand it, you've been urging the Chancellor to bring those taxes down. So I'm glad you still share those views.
Well, look, Tom, I don't discuss publicly what we say in cabinet. That is a private meeting. But we all came into conservative politics, into the party, to reduce the burden of the state on individuals, leave as much money in people's pockets as they can, so they can make choices for themselves about their own lives. I know the Chancellor shares that aspiration. We're dealing with the aftermath of the pandemic, but as he signalled at the last time he stood at the dispatch box, he urgently wants to cut tax.
OK, Kit Malthouse, thanks so much for talking to me tonight.
Thank you.